Mixer essentially is an event whereby we come together with the artists that we work with and artists that we will potentially work with, or even artists who are just doing a lot in the industry. And we network and get to know each other, get to know what you're doing, and even just get to tell the story of what we are doing and see where we can connect, collaborate, create, and maybe even just share some of the work that we want to do or the work that you've done, and even just the aspirations of where we want to see the sector in the future. So yeah, this is the event where you can get a chance to just meet someone new, share your card if you've got a card, even phone number if you've got a phone, or even your address if you are that type of person who doesn't mind visitors. So yeah, but without me saying too much, I would like to thank our host here, the National Gallery of Zimbabwe in Bulawayo, and in particular highlight the director who is sitting next to me, the lovely Silenkosi. As you can see, she's matching with the chair just by coincidence. This was not part of the script, it just happened. And yeah, just would like to introduce her. And in addition, just give her the chance again to just tell us a bit about herself and how she got to be here, and yeah, anything she would like to add as a bit of a background to this. Silenkosi, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the new faces that I'm seeing for the first time in the gallery. We're happy to always see a new face, a new person in our space. Please be at home and feel free to interact with each and every one of us. As Roland said, I am Silenkosi Moyo. I've been in the gallery for 16 years now. Started off fresh from college. Saw an advert in the newspaper for an administrator. I applied, I got interviewed, and I started my job. And I was the administrator until last year when I was appointed acting regional director after Nyati moved on to another space. And this year in April, I then got the confirmation to be the regional director. And
Amazing. Yeah, and you mentioned that 16 years, that's quite a long time. And yeah, I would like you to also just give us your thoughts about where the arts sector is right now, in your view, like how the arts sector has evolved throughout that time, where it is now, and what opportunities lie within it, especially in the context of Bulawayo.
All right, well, thank you for that. You know, I think for the past years, I've always worked behind the scenes, programming, putting things together. And then when you become director, you get to be at the forefront and you get to speak to people. But during those years, sorry about that. I think during those years, I've seen growth, I mean, particularly in the Bulawayo Arts Center, where we have come to be a vibrant space, a holistic ecosystem, you know, where we were able to collaborate, we were able to network across genres, across all art forms. So when we started, I think even when I got into the art industry, it was already existing, but there was a disconnect. I think, for example, if I can give the gallery, more often you get people sitting outside the windows, just say I'm at the gallery but would not come in because it felt like more of an elite people's place. But with the changes of programs that we have taken in, we've kind of opened up our spaces to the audience. And I feel it's the same in all the art forms, where we have engaged our audiences at their local community levels, where you find that there's programs or activities that are taken to the communities, thereby bridging and narrowing that gap where it feels like art is over there for the elite or just for artists only or for certain people. So I think that has allowed us to grow as a sector. Of particular interest also in Bulawayo is the way we are able to harness our energy together. you'll find that you collaborate with the school, that's the Ministry of Education coming in on board in terms of programming. You have organizations within our state's development agencies who are then able to come in and say, I'm able to support you perhaps financially or with other things that can help push the program. So I also appreciate the fact that as the government and the city, there have been policies that have been put in place to kind of regularize the sector. So that has given us a working platform, a guidance. For years, I think when I joined the industry, we've always been crying about a cultural policy. And over the years, that has come into effect and that has come into play. And I think that's something that has benefited us immensely as the arts sector. And we really appreciate all the stakeholders. It's not just one person or one individual, but a collective effort from all the players coming together to push for such things. So what then remains is for us to actually implement the strategies that are embedded in those policies to actually make them work and gain value for the artists.
I like that. And yeah, in your view also, like what ways in which, what ways are there in which we can implement these policies and the current opportunities? How can we take advantage of what's already there as organizations and also as creatives?
Okay. No, I think the first and foremost is collaboration. We cannot stand alone. In order for us to also be able to speak to international best practice of production and delivery of our programs of activities, we really need to collaborate and tap into other people's energies, other people's thoughts, other people's ideas, to then come up with a new way of doing things, and create our own possibilities and our own inroads. Something that will also be inclusive of the younger generation, because if we just stick to the way things have been done, we create a gap in the consumption of our programs, of our activities. And then we'll probably always be crying of how the local audience is not taking part, of how there's that gap between the youth and the older generation. So if we collaborate with the young and the old and across art forms, across genres and across cultures, we come up, I think, with this new spectacular theme or program that will just speak to a whole lot of people and be inclusive and be remembered, I think, for generations to come.
Yeah, and I can see collaboration and the power of collaboration, especially amongst the young artists that we have in Bulawayo and Zimbabwe as a whole, as something that is very much positive and will have a lot of potential in the growth. So on that point also, what are the potential growth areas, apart from collaboration, that you can envision that are there, that people in this audience can take advantage of?
Okay, that's interesting. I feel like I could talk maybe until the cows come home on that one, but I'll just try to keep it in a nutshell and perhaps list a few things. To start off with is to maybe stakeholder engagement, so that we are able to, as I said, to speak to develop programs that speak to international best practice. I know when you work in a closed space, you think what you're doing is the best, until you get out there and you see there's more, or there's actually something else that's better than what you're doing. So we also then need our institutions to offer properly professional skills training, especially for our curators, our administrators, our choreographers, to offer such training, professional development locally without necessarily having to always go out for that development. If we can find that space within our community, we are then also able to sell the art that we are in to the schools, to the children, and to the future generation. I know sometimes you get parents saying they are not really convinced that art can give a living to the children. So if we don't make it now and show that it can happen, it is difficult then to have a younger generation to continue what we are doing. It then informs the need for continuous mentorship programs. It's very important for us to continue. for posterity and passing on our heritage to the next generation and to build our Ubuntu betu. We need to create that platform amongst us. So those are some of the gaps and opportunities that are there. The other one is the need for research and documentation. I think that's always been said that izinto zesintwini or our traditional things are mostly oral. So we then lose out on passing on the information to our children in a way that's documented. If we then embrace digital technology to use that to document, I think the younger generation are more into that space, so that we were able to tap into them, inform them in the way that they understand. We are the book generation. We would love things to be continuously written down and put in pen and paper. So we need to strike that balance to say, the physical documentation and the digital documentation, so that we have our history, our heritage, our arts, our creativity locked in somewhere. I remember there was a point when we were doing color at home with our children. So when you start to Google local indigenous things, you really struggle to get that information. But if you Google carrots, it's like a dozen web pages that come out. But it's only a few pages of making other suggestions for that. So that means we need to put more information in the digital space. We need to put our projects, our activities in the digital space. And I know we're making inroads in that, but there's still a lot more that can be done. I think especially in terms of properly researched activities, programs that can be documented and put online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true, because I do know that there's quite a lot of gaps in terms of information about our cultures and about our practices, even our food on the internet. And I feel like people who are also in this audience are the right people and the ones who have the potential to then fill in that gap online. And you've talked about the gaps, you've talked about the opportunities also in Bulawayo and Zimbabwe. I would just also like to see, future-wise, where do you see the arts sector in Bulawayo in the next couple of years?
Bulawayo is the culture hub of Zimbabwe. So we have a lot of spaces where we can showcase our art, our talent. I love the fact that we are breaking barriers and not just sticking to traditional spaces for showcasing our art. People can open up spaces at the museum, the Bulawayo publicity, and have an exhibition and have a performance. We are utilizing the city council spaces that are there. We have some artists who are, working spaces there. That's partnership with the city council. So if we maximize on those opportunities, on creating the safe and friendly workspaces for our artists, I think it would be a huge gap filler for us. We then don't need to bring everyone into the city center for every program. The program can happen right within the local community. I think that has come up a lot in terms of when we go out for outreach. That's a lot that comes. People say, no, but you're always that side and you're not this side. And this side being the community where the people are. So I think as Bulawayo, we're doing our best to make sure we're not just in the urban space, but also in the peri-urban space, but also in the rural spaces, even in terms of collaboration, in terms of networking and program presentation. I think the other issue what we really need to address, I think for me, is the gender disparity that still exists in the arts sector, not just in Bulawayo, but in Zimbabwe as a whole. I think if you check the Zimstat reports, I think for 2015 and 2017, you'll find that there's still, the industry is still male dominated, with male artists constituting twice the number of female artists. So in as much as we are programming, in as much as we are calling out for women artists, I still feel that there's a need to call out the female and the women players in the sector, from administrators, from office people to the actual artists, to aggressively harness these opportunities as they are offered to them, not just in Bulawayo but across Zimbabwe. We really need to take up these opportunities, and beyond just accepting a one-time opportunity, we need to create, as women players in the industry, continuity. We don't just want to take space or take up an opportunity in one event or in one program and then die down. It will then allow us to stop the element of recycling the same faces when there's the same program. So I'm really encouraging and asking all the females in this room, to do a one person drag another person into this program, into this event, inspire someone, motivate someone, especially another female, so that we have growth and we can then bridge that gap. Hopefully in the 2022 Zimstad report, we'll find that maybe there's a reduction in the gender disparity in the report. I hope that is there. What also is looking bright for us as Bulawayo, I think, is the way we've embraced technology. I think not just in Bulawayo, there's room for us also to grow in the use of technology, in the use of digital spaces to promote and showcase our art. And there's a lot of talk around VR, virtual reality, 3D, and so on. There's young people who are doing that in their quiet individual spaces. We just need to then come together as institutions, as individuals, as corporates, and then harness that technology to make it work for us. We want to be listed on Google Arts and Culture pages. We don't want to just be reading about Nigeria or any other spaces. We want to read about the National Gallery of Zimbabwe. We want to read about all the other players in the industry in that space. And then we need to sort of do a digital mapping that influences tourism in Bulawayo, tourism in Zimbabwe. We often get visitors saying, somebody, if I come to Bulawayo, what can I see? Can I Google it and find it? Then you find that there's a limited space for people to go to see art and culture spaces. We need to tap into that space and make it work for us. And lastly, we really, really want to make money. We want to make money.
Yeah, last but not least. So at this point, I would just like to open it up to the floor just for a few reactions, questions that the audience may have for Sile. Any takers?
No, the Venice Biennale is one of our pride as a gallery, where we get to take our country, as it were, to the international space. It's a platform for artists to actually up their game. If you want to then do exhibits, selected to exhibit in Venice, you really, really have to have a good profile, a good CV as an artist, and make sure you harness all the opportunities around you to build yourself as a brand, as an artist. It has profiled us in a positive light as a country to show that there's more beyond just the local market that we have, and we can use these international platforms to build ourselves. Most of the artists who have gone and exhibited in Venice have come and become productive individual artists, independent artists in their spaces. Some are running residences, some are running their own art galleries in their own spaces. So it's an opportunity for you to grow, not just as an individual artist, but you become a space for other artists as well. You become a mentor, you become a brand. And obviously there's the money that comes with it when you sell your artworks, and the profiling that it gives you as an artist, and the exposure to different curators, a different audience, that helps you up your game. So I think it has allowed us to grow and inspire the current pool of artists to be able to aim for that platform. I hope I've answered you well.
Yes, you did in terms of the artists, but in terms of the gallery, what other opportunities do you see by being in the Venice Biennale?
Okay, it opens up, it builds our brand as an institution to be able to meet some of our mandates that we have set out for ourselves and as the government to be able to meet. What it then also says about us is that we are able to create platforms for artists at a national level and an international platform. We are then able, we find for us that our director in the head office, our curators, are then able to create programs that network across countries, where we'll be able to bring in a different institution to come and partner with us on different programs here, and have access to an international pool of curators, of institutions, that help inform our programming as well to make it relevant and productive for the artists and the gallery as well.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe even if we could take one more. Yeah. Yes.
Alright, I have a question. I've noticed lately a trend, mainly in Bulawayo and also in parts of the country. You spoke about bridging the gap in terms of gender equality for female artists and also about artists getting paid. But what I've noticed is that female artists get called for nonsense that doesn't have money. Like workshops, mentorship, someone who have been in the industry for 20 years and they're still getting mentored. And then the day when it's a real opportunity, when there's a concert, there's not even one female artist on the lineup. Or the lineup is like 6 guys and 2 women. So I wanted to find out, is the gallery, because I know the gallery is a space, you're a space for exhibitions, you have festivals, you have concerts. Do you have anything in place to guard against this deliberate exclusion of female artists from opportunities that pay?
Okay, thank you for that. Perhaps we have had a slightly different experience where when we have programs or activities or projects, even paid ones, we actually are lacking in filling the gap with female artists. So that's why I keep saying that there's a low number of female artists and then you end up recycling the same kind of faces. The other experience that we've encountered is that when you call out female artists, as it were, to come and take part, there's a lot of behind the scenes decision making that influences them to then say yes or no to some aspects, which we can attribute maybe to systemic and operational limitations, which are then specific to that particular woman at that particular time. Maybe let me speak for the gallery and say we have had opportunities where we have given a platform to female artists, but the turnout has been very, very low. Some actually say no to such opportunities that you give them. That's why you end up having probably a lineup of more guys and less females. So there's more to it than just the appearance of money and attendance. There's a lot of issues that women artists are also going through. I think this is something that I also came across when I was doing my thesis for my MBA. It was focusing on female artists in Bulawayo in particular. So when I was doing my research, when I was asking, these things kept coming up. The challenges that they go through, just as women, other than just as women artists, those then influence them or their participation in attendance to female or to the art spaces and the art projects. So if we can find a way of dealing with the things that people do in our personal spaces and take up the opportunities that come through. I think it's easier in the art space if you are a female to say no as opposed to someone who's employed, because the employer would hold you accountable if you don't show up. But it's easier for an independent practitioner to say no, I'm not, I have children and this to attend to. But if we then think of it as a professional working space and an opportunity to take up, I think it will reduce that gap. And being able to say no to opportunities that you feel are not worth your while is not wrong. It doesn't make you any less of an artist. It just makes you know this is the charge that comes with you. We've experienced that. We've had artists that we really, really want to host here. Then they will tell you a few that it's beyond your budget. And they'll say, no, I'm not willing to negotiate on this one because this is the fee and this is the service that come with it. And that's also what we encourage also as institutions, as these partners, to actually be paid your worth. So you need to then find a balance in negotiating. I think that skill of negotiating then comes in to be able to negotiate in a way that benefits you. Sometimes you need to look at will the program benefit you in terms of profiling, networking, or it's just the monetary value that comes to you. So maybe it becomes an individual decision at the end of the day, influenced by all those things. I hope I'm trying to address it.
Well, you have, although I have a bit of a suggestion, something small, that sometimes, like you're saying, there are a lot of systemic things that force a specific demographic to say no, even if they have the skill and would fit. That, for example, if we make those programs a bit more women-friendly, then perhaps more women will be able to say yes. Because from what I'm getting from you, it's not that they don't want, it's that they have to consider all this. So say, for example, if an event starts at 9 p.m., if we can do it during the day, then more women might be able to attend. Or if it's an event that's maybe family friendly, then she doesn't have to think about, oh, who will babysit my kids whilst I'm working. So I'm just spitballing here, or things which I believe might help.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate the suggestion. I think in some spaces we've seen that happening. It's little efforts that have been made. Probably they will gain traction as we continue to make those efforts. But I feel like there's also a lot of opportunities for women that we really need to really tap into. Let's make the best of them while they're still here, and and grow ourselves as other, like the male artists,
Yeah, the opportunities are not going anywhere. so yeah, it's just I see there's a burning one. So.
No, I just wanted to add on to what Tinashe was saying. I think the focus shouldn't be so much equality, it should be equity. In the sense that I can't, as hard as I try, compete for a space, an artistic space, with a single male, even if the opportunities are there. But if someone in power realizes that Koito is talented, but she is a mom to a toddler, let's try and make it comfortable for her, easier for her to access this opportunity. Then there'll be more women in the spaces, so not just for the gathering, but for any other person who has an organization here. We shouldn't focus more on equality, but let's start focusing on equity. Equity considers my position as a woman more than that we're at an equal level. You should try to add up to the opportunities that a guy could get. So I think that let's start when we have a call for something, an artistic call, let's consider that okay, the women who are applying for this opportunity, will they be able to take up the space? Or does a guy have, is a guy 10 steps ahead when he applies?
Okay, thank you, Sile, and the audience. If there are any other questions and stuff, I am sure, okay, by the director's request, Seagull.
Comfortable spaces in terms of performances for events. I think that art gallery may consider that. But what if it's a different promoter altogether? The promoter is bringing interpreter, ability, and stuff like that. They may not consider that you need a comfortable space, you need to perform early and get home early. It's none of their concern. What they're looking for is someone who's able to take on whatever opportunity, whatever time slot we can give to them. So I think as women we should start being brave, take on whatever comes, because this industry is brutal anyways, and people don't care, they don't, I mean, if you want an opportunity, take it and you should create a safer space for yourself. Go there, perform, regardless of the time. If you're an artist, be sure to put yourself in a space that whatever comes, you take it. Whether it's at night, be able, be ready to take whatever gigs come to you. That's being a performing artist. Unless you're saying, no, I'm into gospel, we're just doing things. That's how it went. So I'm talking from experience. These promoters really don't care. So go take the opportunity, perform, get your money in your purse, go home.
Thank you so much. I think like those are news that are sector specific. then as individual sectors, we then need to sit down and look at it. National Arts Council is here. They've had platforms where we come in and discuss such issues as musicians, as promoters, and so on. So those then can be discussed in finer detail to make it work. For me, what I then worry about is how we influence the next generation. We need to create an art a value chain that will promote the next person to be able to want to be an artist. We just don't want to make it work for us alone. Like I keep saying as well, we are creating heritage, we are passing on to the next generation. For instance, I have children. I want them to appreciate who they are and be able to tell their story and their perspective. So we need to share those things, but also create spaces where they also feel safe. I know when you come to other development agencies where they speak of human rights and the girl child and so on, and the issues of safety will always come to the light. So as an arts industry, we are also not spared. We need to create that safety in our spaces, if not just by being candid about how you want to perform and the conditions and the setup, so that you also feel safe and secure in that space. Let's put it in writing. I've realized a lot that as artists we get excited sometimes about performing and getting paid, and we forget the fine print that's in the contract that puts you in a situation where you're probably not happy. If it doesn't hurt or kill you to say, I have children, I want them to come and see me perform. Can I bring them? Can you create a space where they can sit and watch me and be looked after while I do my business as well? They get to appreciate what you are doing, to understand what's paying their fees, and appreciate your art, appreciate your trade. But they also feel like it's a safe space. And then it also speaks to artists as brands. Perhaps you may take it for granted to say you influence someone, to say in schools this one is a role model and so on. We just have to look at you in that space, not just as someone's mother, but as a role model for my child to be able to want to take up art. So you need to put yourself in a space that will make you feel safe and be able to pass on that information, that space to another person. I think it's also very important, but that can be sector specific, to say, okay, maybe the arts, the music, the performing, how can we then make our spaces safer for women, and also for us to make ourselves equal partners. We are always crying for equal opportunities and so on. Let's not give excuses when the platforms are there. Let's make it work, and let's make it work in terms that are conducive for everyone, not just us as females, but also for everyone, the males involved in that space.
Yeah, and if you have any questions and stuff later on for Silenkosi, you can see her, she'll be part of the mixer. So, as I said, this is a mixer. We are mixing. It's an opportunity to meet people, ask questions, and just get to know a bit more about what they're doing. And on those words, I would like to thank you, Sile, for joining us. Yeah, you really ignited a very fiery conversation over here, and I'm sure it's going to continue. So could we give a round of applause, please?
Thank you very much, and I would like to express my gratitude to the British Council for affording us such opportunities to have such conversations. It's not every day that you get a development partner or an organization to come and initiate such events. And I know the British Council is doing a lot of research that helps, get us insights into the arts industry, into the arts sector. And we appreciate that. We also like to copy and adapt that for our own spaces and make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Alright, at this point I would also like to invite another amazing trend-setting woman, Chipo Kanyumbu from British Council. She is the Arts Projects Manager, to just say a few words.
Thank you, Mami, for such an introduction. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for coming and also being part of this conversation. I really was touched, especially at the closing, the issues around women in creative enterprise. I think they're very pertinent, and we need to have more sessions around this area so that we can really unpack. And I don't think we'll be able to do this in a few sessions. It has to be done continuously. And as British Council, this is one of our key things or key areas that we are looking at. We are looking at learning, and we are looking at learning at individual level. We are looking at learning as a group, like what we are doing right now. We are looking at also imparting skills, collaborating as well together. So we are also looking at creatives coming together and networking, just like what we're going to do as well, just after this session. So everything that you're talking about in terms of the growth areas in this sector, they're exactly what we are also thinking around, thinking around collaboration, thinking around digital innovation, and what else, or how much more, we can do or we can influence around that area. So as we are coming out of COVID, I think it's everyone right now can actually agree with me that we need to reimagine, and we need to re-engage, and we need to reconsider some of the things that we've been doing in the past to make sure that we realign ourselves with what is very current, and also with what makes money. Because I think at the end of the day, it's all about growing the sector, the creative sector, and it's also about growing the individual. So I am very grateful for this conversation that has been happening. I will leave most of the strategy and focus and direction about the work that we are doing to the next speaker. But in terms of this conversation and where it has taken us, I think we are actually very glad that we've got this group of people in this room that is going to take forward this conversation as we network. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chico. And I like how you didn't mention who the next speaker is, creating repetition and suspense. So yeah, and last but certainly not least, we have the country director of Zimbabwe, Mr. Roland Davies.
I noticed that the previous speaker was introduced as a trendsetter. So thanks for that. Put that in your performance review. Very pleased to be here. I was told I was supposed to make closing remarks. I suppose my remarks are, it's very hot in Bulawayo. And why are you all looking so serious? It's supposed to be a fun event. I think the only thing I wanted to do though was slightly argue with the director, Gallery, who said that Bulawayo is the most creative centre of Zimbabwe. I don't think you said that nearly loudly enough. It needs to be said much more loudly, because it is a fantastic city and it is well recognised for the creativity in this city, of which you are very much a part, and of which we also try to contribute through our programmes. There was a bit of false advertising, which Chico said, I'm supposed to talk about strategy. Just to tell you that after you said that, Extra came up and said, for God's sake, don't talk about strategy. So I'm not going to talk about that. What I will say is that our commitment to the arts sector in Zimbabwe is as strong as ever. We will continue to work to create, I think you said about the sort of the better future that everybody wants, a future where Zimbabwean arts individuals, organisations and creatives do realise the incredible potential of this country, and as you say, you know, make a bit of money along the way. That would be nice, wouldn't it? And very important, because you know we've all got to feed the kids and pay the rent and everything else. So a lot of the work that we do is quite focused on how we build the infrastructure, the ecosystem, the connections, the networks that allow people to sort of get ahead, not just to create great art, but you know, to make, as I say, to make a living out of it. So that's what we are committed to doing, and making sure that we're doing that not just in Harare, but obviously in this creative city of Bulawayo as well. So it is really, we've not been here for a while. COVID kind of got in the way of things, but we are very, very happy to be back. Very happy to be back at the gallery. And very grateful for you hosting us, and not just hosting us, but sharing your thoughts with us this evening. Anyway, I better shut up because I see that lots of wine glasses have run dry in the last week or so, and so without stop, I will make myself very, very unpopular, and that would be a shame. Thanks very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Now you can begin mixing.
Phela mina, kasphile anyway.